Amandla Stenberg is finally talking about the Acolyte, and she does it on her Instagram stories. Boy, does she have a lot to say. I'm going to react to all of it next. What's up, everybody? It's the Outlaw John Rocha here. Welcome to The Nation, a very special episode of The Nation. This one's not live. I'm just doing a reaction video / Nation episode here, taking a look at Amandla Stenberg's comments after the cancellation of the Acolyte. You know, there have been a lot of reasons. We've covered it ad nauseum here on the Outlaw Nation channel, numerous shows talking about it, from the Geek Buddies to the Jedi Way to the Hot Mic to me solo, just talking about what happened here with the Acolyte and the cancellation. Of course, I put that tweet out that said season 2 was in motion, and I heard that from some very close sources to Lucasfilm and Star Wars and Leslie Edlin that a season 2 was absolutely in the works as far back as February. So clearly, they were very high on this series. They thought this series was really going to do well and hopefully lead to a very positive reaction, overcoming some of the initial reaction from some sides of the fandom who are, of course, invested in the anti-woke ideology and tear it all down type of philosophy, of course. But on the other side, there are people who just want to go, you know what? I just want a good Star Wars story. I just want good writing, good acting, good direction, good editing, good pacing, good story beats. I want all great characters. I want all of that here. And that's what I think most of the fans are in that camp. One side just wants to love everything. One side wants to hate everything and find their reasons for both. But in the middle, there's a large majority of us who just want to enjoy Star Wars and enjoy good content from Star Wars. But of course, the reality nowadays is if you've got a show or film that's being led by someone of color or a woman, or it addresses any LGBTQ plus issues, God forbid, then the immediate reaction from one section of the fandom is to burn it to the ground and no, see what they're doing. They're giving it to the anti-woke ideology, all that stuff that they say. But the other side is championing it. And even if there's issues with it, they get mad that you would dare to bring up any issues with the show. So again, somewhere in the middle is where a majority of us are. And we just want to see good content. At the end of the day, the Acolyte was canceled because the viewership numbers came in. As I've said on a number of the shows, I feel like when Manny Jacinto did not announce a season 2 for the Acolyte at D23, that was pretty much the nail in the coffin for the show. But we haven't heard from a number of the actors about it past, I think an occasional comment about how much they enjoyed the experience and what have you. And this is Amandla Stenberg. This is being reported all over the news. And I have not watched this, her Insta stories. I'm going to react to it and in real time as I'm watching them, pause it and comment on some of the stuff that she's saying as we go along. So just letting you know, this is the kind of reaction video it's going to be. It's not going to be a reaction video like a normal where I just watch the trailer, comment through the trailer, and then talk about it afterwards. I'm actually going to comment as we go along with some of the things that she says here. So I'm going to be very curious to see what she says. I heard a couple of things from the headlines that I saw there from different sites about about her feeling like there was some hyper-conservative bigotry going on, which I don't disagree with before the show came out. Absolutely. After the show came out, I think there are legitimate criticisms about the show for sure. So please don't sit here and think I'm just going to defend everything that went with the Acolyte. That's not true. Those of you who watched the reviews and my conversations about it, I didn't 100% think the show nailed it. There were some good spots, but didn't 100% get there. And I would argue that some of the Osha May characterizations and some of the story beats that she went through as those two characters are one of the big reasons why the show didn't work. So just giving you my full thoughts on the show. Well, not full, but like a window into my thoughts on the show generally before we jump in to these stories. But I'm very open to hear what Amanda has to say. Certainly as a woman of color here, a Black woman leading this project here and with a very diverse cast. And of course, her pushing back on the fans after the initial negative reactions from some of the anti-woke crowd over there in the Star Wars fandom. She released a song that went after them. So clearly she is very strong in her opinions and ain't going to be bullied or pushed around by anybody. So I'm going to be very curious to see what she's got to say. And let's bring in these Insta stories here from Amandla. So let's start it. And I said I'll pause it as it goes along, give my thoughts if things jump out at me. There's a few of these, so strap in. Here we go.
Okay. Hello. I I thought I would get on here and just speak candidly. I hate doing this. I hate doing this, but I'm gonna do it. I honestly I don't use social media very much anymore.
So right off the bat, I'll say this: the idea that she's doing her hair at the same time, I think there's a commentary, real subtle commentary there with her doing her hair. Of course, we've seen people on TikTok videos do their hair as they talk about things as a way to kind of make people feel at home or make feel like you're sitting in the room with them, so to speak. Her laughing and saying, "I hate doing this." I don't know how much of that I believe when she's putting herself out in public, but look, that may be her honest feelings on this. Let's keep going.
And I'm so happy about that. But there are many folks out there that I want to acknowledge and I want to show appreciation and love and support for.
That's good.
So that's why I'm hopping on here to talk about this, which is that our Star Wars show, has been canceled.
Yeah. Now she's using the word canceled. So for all the people who are like, "Oh, I hate that they're saying canceled. It wasn't canceled. No one's officially canceled." It's canceled. She's saying it canceled. The star of the show is saying it's canceled. It's canceled. Put that semantics argument to bed.
I'm going to be transparent and say that it's not a huge shock for me.
Yeah. Couldn't be.
Of course, I live in the bubble of my own reality, but for those who aren't aware, there has been a rampage of vitriol that we have faced since the show was even announced, when it was still just a concept.
I think that's a fair point. A rampage of vitriol against the show before it was even, or when it was in motion, was just a concept. Absolutely. Some sections of the Star Wars fandom, certainly to satisfy their angry base, throw that red meat out there for them to gobble it up rather than giving it a fair shot to see what it's doing. As soon as they hear person of color or woman leading anything, they're immediately like, "Rah!" So, this is what you get. But I think she's right there.
One had even seen it. And that's when we started experiencing a rampage of, I would say, hyper conservative bigotry and vitriol, prejudiced hatred, and hateful language towards us.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's absolutely true. I think there was a lot of negative backlash, and before the show was even in motion, or even as the show was in motion, before the first episode was even dropped, there was a lot of anger going on from a number of places coming after them because of the fact that it was a diverse cast, that there was a strongly female cast, that Leslie Headland was a lesbian a filmmaker being a part of, or a showrunner rather, being a part of this. So there was all of that. I think she's absolutely right. Hyper conservative bigotry. Certainly, you can see shades of the MAGA approach to things with the anti-woke side of the Star Wars fandom at times. Not all of them, but certainly there's a large number of them. You can see them taking pages out of the MAGA playbook where they purposely misunderstand, willfully misrepresent, dial into people's anger at people of color or women, and cater to a mostly male base. And it's certainly not saying that it's all male, because it isn't. There's a few, right, women who are anti-woke on that side of the fence as well, who have issues with it and have lined their pockets with their anger, with their fan bases for sure. So I think she's right about hyper conservative bigotry in that way.
And this really affected me when I first got the job, because it's just not something, even though I anticipated it happening, it's not something you can fully understand what it feels like until it's happening to you.
I think that's absolutely fair. I mean, in a very, very small Z level of fandom, Z from A to Z, very small level of fandom that the Schmodown was, some of the negative comments that a lot of us got to a lot of us right off the bat, because I think a lot of us weren't prepared, no matter how much we were told to be prepared for it. Certainly Christian tried to prepare me for it. I tried to prepare Rachel for it, and other people tried to prepare other people for it. You just don't know what it's going to be like when there's like negative upon negative upon negative. It just can get to you. So I can absolutely understand that. No matter how much you tell yourself it's coming, you don't really know what it's going to be like until it's actually directed at you and you get the loads upon loads of negative reactions from people about it.
However, I feel like I've kind of moved through those feelings in various ways, including being vocal about it myself.
Right. That's all.
For me, it just became a situation where there was no option but for me to uh, honor my sense of ethics and my belief system and my value system while being in this very unique position. It was kind of like I had this very unique experience of.
Now, if you notice the body language here, she stopped combing her hair, and I don't, I can't speak to what she's doing. I'm not a black woman with black. I don't know how to describe what she's doing other than tending to her hair. So, those of you who are watching this who can explain to me what she's doing, please let me know down in the comments section. But here's where she, like, the fact that she stopped doing this and she's leaning in like this, that's a body language that she's about to get real and really, like, kind of reveal what she feels about this whole situation as we go forward here with her comments.
Experiencing the world at large, which is, of course, hyper divisive right now, through the lens of this very, very unique opportunity of being in Star Wars. And it brought up a lot for me, a lot socio-political dynamics, a lot about my own value system, how I respond to that kind of hatred, how I move through the world at large. And it just became inarguable for me at a certain point that in order to continue to be myself, I would have to honor my value system by being vocal, even within the context of working for Disney and working within the large, massive IP that is Star Wars.
I absolutely appreciate that. You guys know, if you follow me, I'm outspoken about certain issues. I will use my social media platform to speak my opinion on certain issues. And for me, that's important. That's who I am. That's how I'm built, right? Other people can stay silent. Other people, I don't want to lose subscribers. I don't want to lose supporters. I don't want to lose patron subscribers. Totally understand that. Live your life as you see fit. Some of us are called to speak on this. Some of us, for those of you who don't understand that, some of us, it's in our bones. It's like air that we breathe, the need to speak about this stuff, because some of us experienced some of this negative stuff at very formative ages, either through the experience of having, like for me, immigrant parents who were made fun of for their Spanish accents when they spoke English, who were ridiculed when I was a child, watching them get ridiculed in places like Kmart or McDonald's by people who spoke ill of them right to their face or made fun of them, and thinking that a little kid can't possibly fight back or say anything while they did this to them. Those are things that are ingrained in your memory. And you understand that, right? And I don't know Amandla Stenberg's story, but I'm sure as a talented young black woman, she has experienced or seen the racism within our country, experienced and seen the racism for generations, has been told about the generational racism in this country and the vitriol people have, not only towards her as a black person, but as a black woman. So I'm sure that's an element of all this. So the way she's built and the way she came out of the womb is someone who will speak her piece. Storm Reed is the same way. And I have to say, I champion young people and especially young people of color speaking out on these issues, because so many people are afraid to speak out on them. I'm absolutely inspired by the fact that there is a generation who are willing to use their platform to speak out on these issues, even within the conglomerate or the umbrella conglomerate of something like Disney, who probably would prefer them to not speak out about them, because certainly Disney fucking doesn't protect them and doesn't step forward to protect them, as we saw with Moses Ingram. And Ewan McGregor had to be the one to tell some of the fans to chill the fuck out. It wasn't Star Wars, wasn't Kathleen Kennedy, wasn't Dave Filoni, wasn't anybody stepping out to tell in a very big platform type way to leave Moses Ingram alone, or leave Amandla Stenberg or other people that have been involved in Star Wars as people of color and as women of color. So
on that topic, I just have to say it has been an incredible honor and dream for me to be in this universe. It still feels, even though, of course, I'm very sad about the show being canceled, and I'm sad about us not being able to give people who are invested into it more, because I still just feel a lot of levity and joy around the fact that I got to experience it, and that people loved it and that people were so responsive. I poured through a lot of different iterations of fan art and ship art and fan theories and things that were just so beautiful and filled my heart with joy.
And I think that's awesome, right? She is just speaking very, very honestly about the honor she felt in being part of a Star Wars show. Certainly, probably grew up loving Star Wars. We've seen videos of her performing some of the Star Wars music, I believe, and being just speaking about how much of an honor it is, dressing up there at the numerous conventions where she was promoting the show. And so there's a real fandom of hers for Star Wars. And so you can tell that's an honest thing that she's saying, how honored she was to be a part of it, how much it moved her to be a part of this situation and to be leading a show like this in a universe and in a franchise we care about. And isn't that what a lot of Star Wars fans complain about? That like these people don't seem to care about the franchise, about the IP, about this and that. Well, here's a young woman who does. Here's a young woman who very clearly loves Star Wars and was very honored and humbled to have gotten the opportunity to lead a show like this, irrelevant of the overall result of whether the show was good or not. She is honoring what a lot of these both anti-woke, middle of the road, and super woke people talk about, probably in common, is that they want people involved with the franchise who love the franchise. Clearly, she loves the franchise. And I hope some people who might be watching and may take a moment to like kind of say appreciate that and let that sink in and maybe rethink some of the more negative or vitriolic comments that they have made in the past towards her or towards the show.
And I just want to let those people know out there who supported us in that way and supported us vocally, despite and in the face of all of the vitriol that we received and the kind of the targeted attack, I would say, we received by the alt-right. Just that you were deeply loved and appreciated, and it made this job all the worthwhile for me, and it made all of the challenging elements of it completely worthwhile for me.
Again, look at the body language. As soon as she really wants to show you the honesty and the vulnerability, she stops combing her hair and playing with her hair, and she goes down close to the camera because she is actually very appreciative of the people who were supportive of her, supportive of the show, supportive of what the show was trying to do and what the show was trying to showcase. And so that's honesty, and that's great to see, and she appreciates that. And like she said, she poured over the fan art, poured over these things. So that's all very, very positive. And I think that's something that for the people who love the show and support the show, and I know there are a few of you who do, including but Tim Sim, who seems to come on all the shows and make it very clear how much him and his friends love the show. And there are others, of course, they're out there who certainly love the show. There, Molly Damon was a big fan of it as well. So I know that. I know there are people that are out there. And so she's speaking to them like, thanks for doing that. And I think that's a great thing to do.
And so that, plus my love of sci-fi and fantasy and being able to be a part of the legacy of something that I so deeply value and something that means so much to me and I've looked up to for so long. So I also just want to say thank you to Lucasfilm for just being a fucking awesome team. They were so wonderful to work with, and just everybody that I worked with in Lucasfilm,
I think that's great.
Particularly Rain Roberts, my producer, was just had such like vision and hope and like such a mission for what we were going to continue bringing into the sci-fi universe and into the Star Wars universe. And it was a really beautiful, energizing, life-changing experience to be a part of. And I have to thank Leslie Headland, who I just fucking love that bitch. She just, excuse my French. She's just one of the best people in the world. I think she's so incredibly talented,
ride or die,
and unique and kind. And I'll love her forever, and I love this experience with her forever. But
I think that's super positive for her to say that. Of course, for Leslie, of course, Leslie's been getting a lot of the vitriol as well, a lot of the targeted attacks. I think they were targeted attacks at her because she's a woman, because she's a lesbian, because the show didn't 100% hit the mark as much as people were hoping, and that's a legitimate criticism. Don't get me wrong. Like, if you have issues with the story, the pacing, the writing, the character development, the story beats that happen, the death of certain characters, other characters staying alive, whether the Plagueis reveal was worth it, or the shipping so quickly after Chimeras killed all her friends, or a lot of her friends, Osha's willing to go off with him. That's a whole nother conversation, right? And but the other side, but like thanking Lucasfilm, thanking Leslie Headland, I mean, that I think that's really positive. But attacking Leslie Headland because she's a woman, because she's a lesbian, or that she was handed the job because she was a lesbian, I think is out of bounds, man. And so I love that she is like basically intimating that that Leslie is her ride or die through this whole process. And it's nice to hear her say that as a person who was inside the Lucasfilm machine, that she was, or the machine, rather, not the film machine, but the machine, that she felt taken care of, and that she loved the support she felt from the people at Lucasfilm. So that's a positive for, I think this is very important for any creator or actor or artist who is thinking about being a part of Star Wars and is worried maybe about the vitriol that they're going to receive. Yeah, maybe the big executives won't come out to defend them necessarily for their own reasons, but within the process, they will feel protected and taken care of. And that's important for any artist or creative when you're walking into being a part of a massive franchise like Star Wars.
At the end of the day, I also just want to thank everybody who watched it. Thank you for being so loving and supportive and excited and nerdy and awesome. And
this is getting emotional. Yeah,
I'll continue to process this for a long time. But maybe the last thing I want to say on the subject is that we all exist in the context of all in which we live.
Kamala Harris, shout out.
But I'm serious. It's not lost on me how the way that these events have unfolded is also due to the hyper divisiveness of the time that we live in, that is driven, I would say at this point, by echo chambers of thought and algorithms that reinforce our biases. And I think that applies to everybody. But I think that in a particular sect of people, it manifests as a lot of fear for what is changing and a lot of hatred for anything that is other. And
okay, that is a super important thing that she just said. I think this is an incredible amount of grace that she is showing in this moment to say, hey, this echo chamber situation is happening on all sides, everybody. She says it's happening for everybody, and they're only listening to our own people saying this stuff, or the people we support saying this stuff. That's the only people we're listening to. And I think that's important that she said that. I think that speaks volumes that she is speaking about the fear that might be driving some of the anger from some of the anti-woke people, or some of the people who feel like Star Wars is being changed because it's not all white leads, or it's not and look, again, if your issues are the stories or the writing or the direction, I'm not talking about that, right? I'm talking to the criticisms from certain sections of the fandom who say, you know, this is not what we grew up with. This is not the white characters we grew up with, the white stories. You're changing Star Wars just to make it fit because you want to use it for an agenda. I mean, as if casting white people wasn't an agenda back then. I mean, whatever. So this is the thing when you look at this situation. And I think it's very, it speaks volumes about her as a person, that she is willing to say that it is fear, and it is the feeling that things are changing right out from under them, that is driving some of this anger, maybe a lot of this anger that is coming out in racist ways, in homophobic ways, and sexist ways. And I think that's important for her to address that and speak to that. And it shows a lot about her character that she's like understanding the genesis of this stuff while also calling it out. And I think that's important. And she's calling it out across the board because certainly that's something that a lot of us can fall victim to, is that we just listen to the people who think like we do. I know for me, it's very difficult, but I do it. Watching Fox News, watching OAN, watching some of the Newsmax, I do it. I hate it. It drives me insane. I want to throw things at the TV sometimes, but I do it so that I can speak from a place of knowledge about what is going on with certain sections of our political sphere and be able to speak about it through the franchises of the geekdom world, which it's permeating all of that, and out into the political world as well. And so I really applaud her for speaking in that way and creating grace in her approach to all of this. And certainly you could tell she was getting a little bit emotional, saying that she's still processing elements of this, as she should, as would anybody, because it just got canceled. And all of the reasons are being thrown about for its cancellation. And so she's processing it as someone who cared about being a part of this universe and cared about bringing the story to life and these characters to life.
And I would challenge us all and challenge myself to continue questioning what it is that I digest, and think critically about what shapes it. And let's vote, y'all.
Absolutely.
Let's vote.
A positive message at the end.
I think that's all I have to say. Wow, this is 10 minutes long. We'll see if I post this. Bye.
I think that's it. Okay, well, there you go. Oh, what's that? All right, let's get out of that. Okay, so there you go. I think, honestly, a very, to use the word again, a very honest assessment of where she's at right now with everything. Just only a few days after the show has been canceled, a few days after realizing, that they weren't going to keep going, knowing what I had reported, that there had been a writer's room being assembled in February for real, and that directors were being talked to about their schedule and about their availability for a season 2. So this is all still new and fresh for Amandla. And I thought she spoke from the heart here. I think she was, doing her hair as a way of kind of creating a little bit of a safety bit of armor around her to be able to talk about it. So she isn't just looking at the camera. She's distracted a little bit, because talking about this stuff can be very difficult. Being open and vulnerable can be very difficult. Not everyone can do it. Anger is easy. Anger is so easy. Anyone can do that. It's about being vulnerable to speak about the pain and the hurt and the sadness that you feel about the loss of something that you really cared about creating, combined with also speaking honestly and from the heart about the love you feel for the people who supported what you did. So I think there's a good mixture there of that in this particular series of Instagram stories that she laid out here. And she speaks honestly about the fact that a lot of us need to, there at the end, need to take a look at how we're getting information, be much more critical of the information we're getting, assessing the information we're getting, exploring the information, not being afraid to maybe realize that some of the stuff we're getting or some of the information we're getting has holes in it, isn't 100% fully being reported. And that goes for all sides of the conversation, all sides. It isn't just pointing out one side, it's all sides. And I think that's important. These media corporations are all invested in getting as many clicks, likes, and hits and engagement as possible. So all these very well-paid anchors can make their money. And it's no different than what we see now in Variety and THR. I mean, a lot of these reporters, a lot of these people who work there, well, not a lot, I don't know the full number, but certainly a number of the people who work there make six figures doing what they're doing under the Penske Media umbrella, and certainly creating content that's going to get people to click on it, like it, read it, watch it, engage with it. Those are numbers that you can present at a salary dispute situation when you want to raise and say, look, my content is getting all this engagement, therefore I should be paid a certain amount. So all the media is subject to it, from entertainment all the way up to politics. It's absolutely sports, what have you. It's all about how much engagement you're getting. Hell, even YouTube, what we're doing here. That's why I'm not always the best at it, because I just want to talk about what I want to talk about, and I'm not always bringing up the subjects that necessarily everybody else wants to talk about all the time. So it's just, that's how it works, right? So you see that, and I think that's what she's talking about there. Very positive message. And of course, the vote. She didn't say who to vote for. Yeah, she made a Kamala reference, but she didn't say who to vote for. She just said vote. So whichever way you go, vote, because that determines the direction of the country and determines the direction of the voices that get heard when we're determining the direction of the country, and even so much all the way down to like an IP or a franchise. So that's an important element of this as well. But yeah, a very honest assessment for her. I think she's 100% right on the hyper-conservative bigotry. I think a lot of people who are invested in this anti-woke machine to continue because they make money off of it, I think a lot of those people are going to misconstrue or misrepresent her comments here. And I hope they don't. I hope they actually kind of give her a little bit of grace to understand where she's coming from as a creative who's just had a show that she really cared about canceled out from underneath her. And she wasn't the one writing the scripts. She wasn't the one dictating the direction of the show. She was happy to be in service of the show. And as a young Black woman who is a nerd and into sci-fi and fantasy, as she admits, to be the lead of the show was probably an incredible honor. I'm not going to say probably, was an incredible honor for her. And that's where she's speaking from. So I hope people across the board receive what she's saying in a positive way. Maybe take a look at themselves if they're engaged in the kind of racist, homophobic, and sexist approaches to content before they even see it. And for the people who have legitimate criticisms, look, she didn't say, if you didn't like the show, you suck. She didn't say, if you didn't appreciate what we did with the show, you're terrible. She only spoke to the hatred that came to the show before the show even aired. And I think she's got a right to speak to that. And she spoke to that eloquently and correctly, in my opinion. And she appreciated the people who did like the show, right? She didn't say anything negative about people who didn't like the show, who had legitimate criticisms of the direction, the acting, the writing, the story beats, the storylines, what have you. She didn't say anything about that. And so I think that's important when you're assessing this thing honestly and correctly and have the perspective to look at it all at once. That's where she was coming from. And I applaud her for doing this. I applaud her for having the bravery to speak about this kind of stuff, because she is going to incur the wrath of a lot of angry people on Instagram. And certainly if you watched our most recent Jedi Way, we put up some of the comments where people were laughing at Amandla Stenberg for the show being canceled, like laughing with such hatred in their hearts, because of course their lives didn't turn out well. So they want to shit on other people whose lives did. And so you see that, and that's the only thing that drives that kind of anger. And so you see that coming through there. And she certainly spoke to it again with a lot of grace, so to speak. So yeah, I thought this was a very, how can I say this? It's, I thought, a very important thing for her to do. And it certainly is in her character. And she's making it clear she's a young woman coming into her power, coming into her voice. And she is picking content, not just the Acolyte, but other content before the Acolyte that has a commentary about the world. And so she's driven by those kinds of things to make that commentary. And I think that excites me for the future of generations to come, because we need voices to speak out. We need voices who have strong platforms to highlight certain issues or speak on certain issues, so that we continue the fight to create a better world in any small way that we can, or any big way that we can. So I appreciate that madly. So what do you think of the 10 minutes that she laid out here? I think she said 10 minutes of what she said here about the Acolyte, about the vitriol that she got, and her thoughts about the show, and how she felt supported by Lucasfilm, and how she was proud to have done it and enjoyed the experience aside from the hate, and her comments about all of us needing to take a look about the echo chambers and the information we receive, and how we employ that information or use that information, and how much more critical we need to be about the information we're receiving in the receptors, or the information that's coming to our receptors, and how we're acting on that information. Let me know what you thought about all of it down in the comments section below. I'm going to say you can be strong, you can be passionate. That's fine. Just keep it respectful. We can have a difference of opinion. I don't mind that. I love debate, but I don't like vitriol. I don't like toxicity. So I will remove that from a comment section, just letting you know. Well, thanks so much for watching this. I appreciate it. Y'all take care of yourselves. Remember to subscribe to the channel down below. Hit that bell button. Share this on your social media if you feel like it. And I'll talk to you next time with another reaction video here on the Outlaw Nation. Take care. Thanks so much for watching this video. Please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more content from the Outlaw Nation.